Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasura Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Sri Radha Madhava ki jai, Sri Radha Giridhari ki jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Puri Vraj Gaja Shudra Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa, Puri Vraj Gaja Shudra Shri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Saranta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Go Premanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, assembled devotees, all glories, Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. Bhaja Bhaja Bhai Chaitanya Nitai Sudrida Vishvash. Yes. 29. It's the last verse of the chapter. Oh, it's not there yet, huh? Stall, tell a joke, something. Well, it looks like the next chapter, they start fighting again. It says there, the next chapter is the battle between the demigod and demons. In other words, the demons, we didn't get any nectar. Put up your dukes. Come on, let's right back to where they started. But they got the nectar. Demigods got the nectar, so we'll see how this all turns out again with Lord Vishnu appearing to them and just never ending. Okay, so today's verse. It is the 8th canto, 9th chapter, text 29. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yad yujate asu vasu karma mano vachobir dehat majadishu nribish tad asat pritaktvat. Echo. Tar eva sad bhavati yat kriyate apritaktvat sarvasya tad bhavati mula nisechanam yat. It's a Brahma Samhita melody, right? Yad yujate suvasukarmo mano. Yad yujate suvasukarma mano vachobhir. Dehat majadishu nribistad asad pritaktvat. Tari vasad bhavati yat kriyate pritaktvat. Sarvasya tad bhavati mula nisechananam yat. Okay, thank you. Yad yujate suvasakarma manovachobhir. Dehad majadishu nirbistarasat pritaktvat. Tari vasad bhavati yat kriyate pritaktvat. Sarvasya tad bhavati mula nisechananam yat. Yad yujate suvasu karma manovachobhir. Dehat majadishu nribistarasat pritaktvat. Tari vasad bhavati yat kriyate pritaktvat. Sarvasya tad bhavati mula nischenanam yat. Anyone like to chant? Yujate vasukarma manovachobhir. Dehat majadishu nibistarasat pritaktvat. Tari vasad bhavati yat kriyate pritaktvat. Sarvasya tad bhavati mula nisechananam yat. Would you like to chant, ladies? Yujjate savasakarma mano vachobhir Deha majadishu nibis tarasat pridaktat Tareva sad bhavati yat kriyate pridaktat Sarvasya tad bhavati mula yat. Synonyms. Yat. Whatever. Yujjate is performed, asu, for the protection of one's life. Vasu, protection of wealth. Karma, activities. Manaha, by the acts of the mind. Vachobihi, by the acts of words. Deya atma adishu, for the sake of one's personal body or family, etc., with reference to the body. Nribihi, by the human beings. Tat, that. Asat, impermanent, transient. Pritaktvat, because of separation from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tahi, by the same activities. Eva, indeed. Sat bhavati, becomes factual and permanent. Yat, which. Kriyate, is performed. Apritatvat, because of non-separation. Sarvasya, for everyone. Tat bhavati, becomes beneficial. Mula nishchechanam, exactly like pouring water on the root of a tree. Yet, which, translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. In human society, there are various activities performed for the protection of one's wealth and life by one's words, one's mind, and one's actions. But they are all performed for one's personal or extended sense gratification with reference to the body. All these activities are baffled because of being separate from devotional service. But when the same activities are performed for the satisfaction of the Lord, the beneficial results are distributed to everyone, just as water poured on the root of a tree is distributed throughout the entire tree. Purport. Excuse me. And this is the distinction between materialistic activities and activities performed in Krishna consciousness. The entire world is active, and this includes the karmis, the jnanis, the yogis, and the bhaktas. However, all activities except those of the bhaktas, the devotees, end in bafflement and a waste of time and energy. Mogasa moga karmano moga jnana vichetasaha. That's 9th chapter, 12th verse of the Gita. If one is not a devotee, his hopes, his activities, and his knowledge are all baffled. A non-devotee works for his personal sense gratification or for the sense gratification of his family, society, community, or nation, but because all such activities are separate from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are considered asat. Asat. The word asat means bad or temporary, and sat means permanent and good. Activities performed for the satisfaction of Krishna are permanent and good, but asat activity, although sometimes celebrated as philanthropy, altruism, nationalism, thisism or thatism, will never produce any permanent result and is therefore all bad. Even a little work done in Krishna consciousness is a permanent asset and is all good because it is done for Krishna, the all-good Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is everyone's friend. Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the only enjoyer and proprietor of everything. Bhoktaram Jaggitapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Bhagavad Gita, 5th chapter, 29th verse. Therefore, any activity performed for the Supreme Lord is permanent. As a result of such activities, the performer is immediately recognized. Na chatasman manusheshu kaschin me priyakritamaha. Bhagavad Gita 18:69. Such a devotee, because of full knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is immediately transcendental, although he may superficially appear to be engaged in materialistic activities. The only distinction between materialistic activity and spiritual activity is that material activity is performed only to satisfy one's own senses, whereas spiritual activity is meant to satisfy the transcendental senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By spiritual activity, everyone factually benefits, whereas by materialistic activity, no one benefits, and instead one becomes entangled in the laws of karma. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 8th canto, 9th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Lord Incarnates as Mohini Murti. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurunminitam Dena Taismai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Dena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swabadandikam. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashari Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vanchakaupatarubhasya kripa sindhubheva patidanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So by your good wishes and ardent prayers, we'll try to say a few things here. So Prabhupada was making the point that everyone in this world is acting. Every single living entity by nature is active. So the endeavor to become inactive is false. Right? Sometimes people think, well, spiritual life means to become inactive. Become one with something, with everything, or go into some kind of void. Now, why is that a tendency is there? Because material life is very painful. There's an epidemic in the world today. People using painkillers, right? Antidepressants. Because they're so miserable that they just want to block it all out. So it's a big problem. Very big problem. And because life or action means suffering, so just void out, somehow or other just void out. And it's very unfortunate. In fact, it gets so bad, people sometimes commit suicide. Did you know since the 60s, the number of teenage suicides has tripled?
The rate has increased also?
The number. That's a good point. I guess it's the same as it was in the 60s. No, it's gone up. It's gone up the number per capita or something like that. In the latest Bhakti Godhead, there's, in the very beginning, there's a great article, those questions people write in. There's one devotee, I wrote it all down. He, the argument that religion doesn't do good for anyone. And he's pointing out that in a materialistic society, things go bad. And he wrote, what has doubled, the anomalies in society, what's doubled, what's tripled, what's quadrupled, quintupled, this, that, all, like a succession there. Amazing, whether it's a divorce and teenage, suicide, and a number of people on antidepressants, and this, all the things. Pretty telling as far as when society starts going off.
That itself is depressing. We need an antidepressant.
What did you just say?
I said that itself is depressing.
Okay, after class there'll be Prasadam. That's our medication. We'll be all medicated with Dvijamani's breakfast, and we'll all come back. So yeah, it's very depressing. It actually is very depressing. So the point being is that acting as a karmi, jnani, yogi. I think in the last, yes. Is it the last purport you gave class yesterday? Is that, yeah, the Krishna Bhakti Nishkam Ateva Santa. No one's peaceful. All these activities create so much anxiety because they're not in line with the absolute truth. They're not in line with the ultimate reality. And they're based upon one's personal or extended sense gratification, which always is a guarantee. Krishna even guarantees it in the Bhagavad Gita. It's guaranteed to ultimately end in frustration, anxiety, suffering. It just always is. And we've gone over this many, many different times about the kinds of happiness in the material world, the kind of happiness that you want and you never get, the kind of happiness you want, you get, and it's not what you wanted, and then the kind of happiness you want, you get, and then sooner or later it's taken away from you. So it's all three results are frustrating and unhappiness is there. Because it's not permanent, it's not satisfying. It's not really satisfying. Because there's what's called the law of satiation. You know what the law of satiation is? Okay, Ananda Vrindavan. What kind of ice cream do you like? Any? It's easy. Name one. Huh? Vanilla ice cream. Okay. So if I give you a bowl of vanilla ice cream, you like that? Yeah? How about if I give you two? You eat that. Big bowls. These are big bowls because you're such a nice devotee. And Mukunda Charan went out of his way and made like 5 gallons of ice cream. So I give you one bowl, very nice. Give you 2 bowls, it's okay. How about 3 or 4 or 5 or 6? What happens after the 6th bowl of ice cream? The last thing in the world you want to see is what? Vanilla ice cream. Any ice cream. Well, young man, it depends. Well, we'll have to do a test. But it's a very important thing is the law of satiation. So even you say it's the most wonderful thing, if you keep getting it, actually that thing you thought was the most wonderful thing can become painful. And the last thing in the world you want to see. And that's true with all sense gratification. It's interesting, not just a thought, but a reality of this material world. That's why it says sense gratification like salt. Not too much, not too little. Just a little bit, because if you start... And so that's what's being pointed out here is that's why... that's the distinction. Whereas the same activities, because that was the point brought up in the previous verses, the demigods and the demons are all acting in this world. They're great warriors and kshatriyas, and they have families and their responsibilities and duties. What's the difference? What's the difference? One is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead because they're acting in concert with the Lord, and the others are fighting the system. What they call it, bucking the system. That's a term also, fighting the system. And you're not going to win. You're not going to win. Just like Sankarshan, he likes going swimming, right? But I'm sure there's some waves sometimes, especially, it's probably all smoothed out by now, right? But certain times, the waves down there can get very, very dangerous. They call it the washing machine, right? They still call it that? When you get stuck in it, it's like being in a washing machine, and you finally roll up on the shore. It's like, whoa! So we're powerless. So much material nature is so much. What is that? Daivesha gunamai mama maya duratyaya. It's impossible to fight the material energy. She lets us go for a little while, then pulls us back. Sometimes the example is given just like a snake playing with a little mouse. Right? Let it go. And then Hiranyakashipu, that was the example given. And Lord Nrsimhadev, let him go, and then grab them again. Let him go. He thought, I got free, I'm going to, and just, so that's what happens. And sooner or later, then it's the last one. Okay, I'm sick and tired of playing with this mouse. Just swallows it whole. So that's what happens. And that snake is sometimes designated as Kala Sarpa. What does Kala Sarpa mean? What's a Sarpa? Snake, and Kala? Time. The snake of time just swallows everything. So, in little bits, just like today is 24 hours. It's a little tiny swallow. But it's going to be gone. We're being swallowed by time. Our life is being swallowed every single day, imperceptibly. Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, says, just like the clouds in the sky. You know, sometimes it's a windy day, the clouds are moving kind of quickly, but for the most part, they're just up there, and you don't really see it, but they're actually moving imperceptibly across the sky. So, because it's in little installments, if you like, our life is being taken away, taken away, and taken away. And then there's this thing called Antakale, the last installment. We don't know when that's going to be. Could be today. There are many people in San Diego going to die today. Did you know that? I didn't. You can look it up. You can even ask, on average, how many people die in San Diego every day? And that's the people we know about. And those are human beings. They don't tally up everyone else. But you can be sure there's a lot of living entities dying here in San Diego. In Pacific Beach, on Grand Avenue, close by to this temple. Right? All kinds of living entities are dying today. So what's the guarantee this won't be our last day? Because it's just a little bit at a time, and then all of a sudden it's the last one. So the point being made here is that everyone's very, very active. So what's the difference? Because people see us, we're very, very active. We've got a building, and devotees are going to Sankirtan, and there's money collected, and there's food, and there's a whole society, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And what's the difference? The difference is here is acting for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Haritosanam, that's the Sanskrit for that. Haritosanam, for the pleasure of the Lord. It makes all the difference in the world. All the difference in the world. That's the Gita's definition of spirituality. The same activities, otherwise why did Krishna speak to Arjuna? There's a nice beginning of one of those chapters in S.B. Keshava Maharaja's book, Gita 3. He said he was given a lecture. He said it's kind of hard giving a lecture than getting on the other side of someone picking on you. So he was given a lecture, and one person asked him and said, "Wait a second, you're a sannyasi." This was on the section of the objection of I don't have any time for Krishna consciousness. So the person said, "Wait a second. Have you ever had a family?" "No." "You have any children?" "No." "Do you have a wife?" "No." "Do you ever work? Are you working?" "No." The whole list went no, 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 no. So how can you tell me that I should make time for Krishna consciousness? But you know what his response was? He said, "Did Arjuna have a family? A wife and children and responsibilities?" And he went down the whole list. Arjuna had all these things, but the whole point of the Bhagavad Gita is that Arjuna had the time to engage in Krishna consciousness. So it's not a good argument. It's not a good argument. So we're all doing so many different things, but to turn it in such a way where you're doing those things for the pleasure of the Lord, that's Krishna consciousness. And if we don't do that, as we said earlier, referring to the snake of time, this moga sa, moga karmana, moga jnana bachetas, rakshashim asuram chaiva, prakritim. Is that how it ends? But that's the last. We become bewildered. So this moga means baffled. Asha means your hopes and aspirations, your activities, your knowledge. Everything is mogasa. Mogasa is baffled. Why? Because time takes it all away. Now, people do so many things. Prabhupada even says in the purport here, yes, there are philanthropists and people doing so much good work for others. you know, on the bodily platform. That's going on. There's hospitals and there's charities and there's medical research and there's, you know, all kinds of things. Are we saying they're all bad? Bad in the sense that they're asat, they're temporary. They're not as good as things on the eternal platform. And so we just had to put things in perspective. That's all we're saying. We don't say stop these activities, but to put them in perspective. They're not the best thing. And if you don't have Krishna consciousness, then sooner or later it all falls apart and you're miserable. Like that. In that sense, they're bad. Because what we're trying to do, you know, just like if you, any endeavor you want, you're trying to solve, well, that's what he's saying here. Everyone's working very hard to be happy. Okay, make arrangements to be happy. Let's put it on a very universal, that's the endeavor. That's the common denominator. Everyone is trying to be happy. Is anyone here going out today and trying to be unhappy? Does it enter your mind like, hey, today's a good day to be unhappy. Let me see what I can do. Hey, let me start with getting a hammer and smashing my big toe. You know, eating something like, I'll pour a lot of salt on the prasadam today and make it taste horrible. Does anyone go out of their way to make no. Everyone's avoiding distress and trying to make arrangements to be happy. And you're considered very successful if you can do that consistently. Day after day, you're actually keeping the misery of material nature away from you. You're keeping you healthy, you've got plenty of money, you're this, you're that. You're avoiding the three sources of misery in the material world. And it goes on and goes on. And if you're the demigods, they're living a wonderful life, exceptionally wonderful life for thousands and tens of thousands of years. That's what it means, the heavenly planets. So, let's go there. We can have a life living thousands and thousands of years, a beautiful body. But even that ends. What does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita? Kṣṇe punya marcha lokam bhashanti. When the money runs out, you got to come back. When the punya runs out, you got to come back. Right? Yeah, it's been compromised. It's burned. So you come back down. So, and it's interesting to note that we've actually done that already. Maybe many times. Does anyone here remember being a demigod? Brahma. You remember being Lord Brahma? You must be pretty sad. Look at you now. Man, you had a whole universe. How many heads did you have?
Supposedly we were all.
No, we weren't. That's what I'm saying. The point is, we've been up, we've been down. Fortunately, Krishna makes us forget all of those things. How could we function? Well, what he's referring to, there's a verse in the Vedas that say, no one dies in heaven. No one dies in heaven. But we know the demigods die. So, and one sannyasi was giving a lecture, he said, what that is described is that you don't die in the heavenly planets. When your time is up, you start falling down to the earthly planets. And you're eaten by yakshas. Your body's eaten alive by yakshas as you're falling and you're crying. And those tears, the soul gets into the tears of the eyes and falls down into the vegetation, and then you start your way back up. So as you're falling, you're being eaten. What a way to go.
That would be a deterrent to getting up there in the first place.
Well, you kind of don't. Well, you know, it's going to be a long time and like that. So. Anyways, this moga is just saying, let's put things in perspective. That's all we're saying. That's all we're saying. Put things in perspective. And Srila Prabhupada was the one who coined the phrase and used it many times, dovetailing. Dovetailing. That's what we do. We dovetail our activities in Krishna consciousness. And that way, two things happen. The result is permanent, and even the application in our day-to-day life is much more pleasant than the other way, because we understand what the laws of nature are, and following those laws, what does it mean to have a peaceful society, peaceful interaction amongst people, and the modes of ignorance and passion are being subdued. So we actually know how to live happily in this life and the next by dovetailing everything in Krishna's service. So that's the great art of work, and that's our preaching. And such a person, Prabhupada says at the end of the purport, near the end, he says this verse from the end of the Gita, that someone who understands this and explains it to others is Priya Krittama, very, very dear to the Lord, to the preacher. Try and help everyone align themselves with the absolute truth. And Prabhupada saying that, of course, the famous peace formula, this Bhoktadam Jagdatapasam Sarvalokam Maheshwaram Surhidam Sarvabhutanam Yajgatvam Shantim Richati, the Shanti. One gets real peace by being in complete concert or harmony with the absolute truth. And that means, on the highest level, that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer of all of our activities, the enjoyer of Jagya. He's the Lord and Master of all manifestations, everything we see. And also Surhidam Sarvabhutanam. He's our dearmost friend. He's the supreme enjoyer, he's the supreme proprietor, and he's our dearmost friend. And to the extent we act with that type of consciousness, we're actually very, very peaceful and happy. Otherwise, it's you can call it different things, mishmash, bloodbath, all kinds of things. Because what happens is there's competition. Now, competition, when it's very light, you call it a mishmash or something like that. People are just kind of like jockeying for position. Then it can get very dangerous. Turns into war, bloodbath, all kinds of exploitation. And all it is people are just struggling for sense gratification for themselves, for their community, for their country, and it becomes miserable for everyone, as we see in the world today. So that's Srila Prabhupada's message, one of the messages in this purport. People will not be happy in this life or the next until they align themselves with trying to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because everything, if you want to take it from Krishna's point of view, everything actually exists for his pleasure. He's created everything, and everything exists for his pleasure. So ourselves and and all the energy, if we just accept that and act and use everything for the pleasure of the Lord, it's amazing how everything just kind of fits together. And the exact opposite of that is, I'm the enjoyer and everything is meant for my enjoyment. Well, we got a problem here. I always give that example, that famous movie. What is that? Houston, we have a problem. Remember that? And I was passing through Houston for a wedding at the airport, and this one teenager walked by. He had a T-shirt on and said, "Houston, I've got a lot of problems." So that's the material world. We got a problem here. All living entities, and you're not acting in concert with the Lord, then it's just one problem after the next. So, on that happy note, we can end here and open it up for discussion.
Yeah, just a comment. In the beginning, you were talking about, and it's in the purport, the sat and asat nature of the spiritual pleasure and that's a key element that it doesn't take long if you get serious about practicing where you can experience it. And especially like kirtan and things like that, is that if you really learn how, that you develop a taste, then that taste doesn't have to go. You can go on and on and on. There's no satiation point. But there's always a satiation for the material because it's based on your mind and senses, which are limited. But if it's just based on the soul, and it's the basic principle, which I keep coming back to, and we all keep coming back to, is that the essence of pure bhakti is you take your pleasure only in giving pleasure to the Supreme Lord. And since the Lord's ability to enjoy is unlimited, you also feel that. And at every moment, as we saw with Srila Prabhupada, you can always be in that state of Krishna consciousness, connected to Krishna, pleasing Krishna, and being pleased, even in the most difficult distress. I mean, externally, if you stay connected, then you don't feel the kind of limitations. There's always going to be a limitation, so as you're in a material body, but still that situation in which you're Krishna conscious and therefore giving Krishna pleasure just by being conscious of him. What to speak of glorifying and doing also services? It's a basic distinction between material pleasure and spiritual pleasure. And that's, essential to our philosophy.
One thing you can meditate on is in the Shikshastakam. It says, Nayanam galara shudaraya vadanam gadgada vrudaya, that verse. So what pleasure in the material world do they advertise that it makes you so happy your hair stands on end, tears are flowing from your eyes, your voice is choked up?
Yeah, that's
There's nothing like that. There's nothing like that.
It's just,
and as you pointed out, it doesn't stop. There's no satiation. It's not like, I had enough kirtan. I can't chant another mantra. I've had it. I'm chanted out. Like that. I can't chant anymore. I can't do this. I've done. That's the last artik I'm ever going to do. I've done 6 today, and I can't do another. It's not like that. It's just like more and more. Give me more. Give me more. Give me more. It's just so. Why does Rupa Goswami say, "Why I wish I had millions of ears and millions of tongues, millions, just to taste? It's so wonderful." So just sit down and think about all the. You don't see commercials. Billboard, this will make your hair stand on end. Tears will flow from your eyes if you buy this car, right? It's a commercial for a car or something like that. Your voice will choke up. But no, they're not going to do it. They're not going to do it because everyone knows. I mean, voice may choke up when you see the price tag, or something like that. But that's a different kind of choking of the voice. It's just there's no comparison, like you're saying. It's a different type of happiness, and there's no satiation. So. That's our birthright.
What's great is, even when you get old, you can still do it because it's dependent on the soul. It doesn't get old.
Yes, yeah. Otherwise, how was it Jagannath Das Babaji jumped out of the basket and started dancing in ecstasy when he was brought to the birthplace of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Like that. So, is that it? We can end here? Yes. Virabhadra Das Brahmachari.
Hare Krishna, thank you for the class. It seems like very simple, that only do for Krishna pleasure everything, whatever you want, and it will be. But we can see that in reality it's not like this. Maybe you may explain like more elaborately what means to do for Krishna pleasure and how to do it.
Well, there's 2 things. One, you mentioned it seems quite easy. And Prabhupada does say the process is easy, but the application is difficult. Because of our conditioning, we just keep going back, because we're conditioned. We're conditioned or defaulting to a particular consciousness, material consciousness. So it's like a sick person. We're trying to get better, and sometimes you have what's called a relapse, daily, from moment to moment. But the point is we are in the process of purifying our heart of all of that conditioning, and when we're to the extent we're in our pure state, all of this is real. All becomes real. No one has to tell you. The Bhagavatam gives the example of eating. When you eat, you don't need a certificate. Oh, you're full. You're full, you're satiated. There's 3 things. What are they? You're full, you're nourished, that's it. And so that happens when you eat. So it's automatic. And as far as keeping it very, very simple, we're in a movement, a Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON. So aligning ourselves with the mission of spreading Krishna consciousness by Prabhupada's instructions in general and in detail, our structure of hierarchy in the temple. It's a temple. And there's so many duties to be done in this, in our local temple, in our local yatra to spread Krishna consciousness. So we just kind of align ourselves as best as possible with that mission. We'll be very, very safe because that will please the Lord. Like that. Balaram?
Yeah, it wasn't one of the main points of the class, but your class. But when we talk about hospitals, we hear that Srila Prabhupada, in his books and his lectures and so on, sometimes he would criticize the opening of hospitals. He'd say, the Mayavadis, they fall down and open hospitals and this and that, and we're not into opening hospitals and so on. So, because devotees, when they're out preaching, they're out on book distribution, they come across so many different people, and someone may ask them, what's your guys' problem? What's wrong with hospitals? Why? I mean, your guru's criticizing hospitals, and further they may say, you're the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Society means it takes care of all the needs of the members. So, why, even within your society, why not open hospitals? What's the problem? So, what would you say to help answer that kind of question, if someone was to get that question?
Okay. Well, I touched on it before. It's a matter of putting things in perspective. That's one thing. No matter what we do to help this body, sooner or later, it's just all going to end. So don't think it's the end-all and be-all of helping someone is to help their body. You have to help the soul. That's the more important thing. So take place, we consider it very, very important too. And why do you maintain our body? So we can engage in devotional service. So we don't say, don't take care of yourself. Actually, a devotee takes care of themselves even more than the karmi. Look what they do on Friday and Saturday night. Or every night now, right? I don't know. I mean, they've designed a society where you can't breathe the air, you can't drink the water, etc., the food, They don't even know what it means to take care of the body. They're destroying their bodies, right? So don't tell, what are you talking about, hospitals and this and that? So that's one point. Is no, we say actually you should take very, very good care of your body. That's what Ayurveda is all about. It's all preventative and this and that. How you living in the mode of goodness. Actually, we're very concerned about taking good care of the body because there's so many things that have to be achieved in this lifetime. So that's one thing. Another thing is we do have hospitals in our society. Bhaktivedanta Hospital and the hospital. So we do in different places where it's possible to do such a thing. And they're amazing. They're spiritual hospitals. People get cured of their disease and their material and spiritual diseases, right? Lord Jagannath and Baladeva Subhadra come to the room every day, and there's a little cart, and you hear different stories of people who've stayed at the hospital. So we have that. But again, it's just a perspective. And one thing is our society. Different societies are organized or started for different purposes. Charities, this is to take care of battered women. This is to take care of orphans. This is to take care of, whatever. So we have the International Society of Krishna Consciousness to take care of people's Krishna consciousness. That's what we do. That's why this society was formed, to help, and that's what this is all about. We're not a hospital to take care of the body. We're not a dentist. We're not a, grocery store or this or that, or different organizations. Ours happens to be an organization for the health of the soul. Is that important to you? Ask them. Or do you know? Is it important to you, the health of your soul? And if you don't know, maybe you should find out, because we say it's very important because that's who you are. It's like you take care of your clothes all day long, but you don't take care of yourself, like the bird in the cage. You can give them that example. What's the value of taking care of the cage if you don't take care of the bird? So we're the people who take care of that part of life, which is very, very, very important. So those are a few answers. Are there two floating around? Is it down to one?
Would occasionally mention this is the hospital, or this is the institution where we're trying to end disease entirely.
Yes.
Hospitals may open and they're very good. We're not against hospitals, but there's a great lack of hospitals for the soul, and the ultimate goal is to end all disease completely and death. Is any hospital doing that? Material hospital? No. So in that sense, we are, the whole idea is catering to the soul, which is sick because it's completely misidentifying with the body, and therefore suffering all the outrageous, hurts that the body, different diseases, injuries, all these things, ultimately in death. So we're all, in one sense, doctors, for ourselves, but also giving that cure to everyone else to end disease entirely. So it's a question of priorities. There's plenty of hospitals around, but where are the temples? Very few. So we're doing that. And as you pointed out, I was going to also say we do have a hospital, but because the preaching, Rana Swami was so effective, he had doctors joining. What are they going to do? All right, let's start a Krishna conscious hospital. Yeah.
Yeah, this material, taking care of the material body is kind of like, I don't know who's a big fighter these days, but when we were growing up, you had Muhammad Ali and who's that other one? Foreman? Is that Foreman? Yeah, he named all his kids. Is that the one who named all his kids the same name? They're all, like, has 5 boys and all George? Yeah. So there's, okay, Mukunda Charan, you're in the ring with him, right? He could beat you up, you come back, sit down on the chair, we pat you up and send you back in. It's like, thanks a bunch. So you go to the hospital, they pat you up and you go back out there and you get smashed again. You just go, that's what all this is. Oh, here, take care of your body, here's some money, here's this. Go back out there and get punched in the face again. And that's all you're doing. You're patching people up and sending them back out. There's got to be something better. Let's get out of the ring. Can I just get out of this ring? I can't beat this guy. And you're just patching me up and sending me back out for another black eye, another busted tooth. That's what it is. Just patch them up, get back out there. Whether it's hospitals or self-help programs, you can do it, you can do it. There's a nice story about that. I just heard. Let's end with a story. Okay? Real quick story. Who's the name of the Mataji, a disciple of your spiritual master also? Because of her passing away, he started the hospice from Australia. Arjun Vigra. Her son is a motivational speaker in Australia. Okay? And the boy was telling the story. I think it was, anyways, telling the story. And he's favorable to the devotees and, in the movement because of his mother and so on. But anyways, he was doing a big, self-motivation, seminar, and some devotees went to it. And there's one part of it in his line is he was telling everyone, just got to say yes. Just got to say yes. And he got the whole audience going, just got to say yes. Yes. And then he saw the devotees and says, what do you say? And they said, Hare Krishna. And he laughed. What could you do? The devotees wouldn't go for that. Just got to say, what other problem? You got to say yes, yes. And devotees, Hare Krishna. Yeah. So we can end on that point. Hare Krishna. Okay.